Reddit. What secret are you taking to the grave? My parents took me to get my hearing checked when I was 12 because I wasn't responding when they called my name. I pretended not to hear some of the beeps in the hearing aid test room. As a result, I wore a hearing aid for 2 years when I was 12 to 14 years old. I don't know why I did that. My freshman year of college, I was really hungover one morning and I was back at my parents' house for the rest of the weekend. I was wearing loose-fitting athletic shorts with no underwear and kind of rocking back and forth in front of the TV to feel that satisfying slap. Any dude knows what I'm talking about. Well, I went to fart, but instead a stream of diarrhea squirted out just at the right moment and completely missed my shorts but got all over the carpet. I went to the bathroom to grab some TP, and by the time I got back to the living room, my dad was on his hands and knees cleaning it up and yelling at my dog. I never had the heart to tell him it was my accident. I worked for a shipping company at a customer desk. A guy I had known came in to ship a package. He was a known drug dealer in my town. He didn't recognize me. After my shift, I opened the package and found $37,890 in cash. I never went back to the job and never heard anything about it. I left Texas a month later with cash in hand. Power play. Also, that dude probably got murdered. My dad cheated on my mom with her sister when I was born. My aunt moved in to help my mother with the newborn, i.e. me. My mother told me while she was drunk at a dinner party and started it all off with, I know I sometimes sound like I hate you, but there's a reason. So even though I love both of my parents, I secretly think they are both pretty awful excuses for human beings. My dad for obvious reasons, my mother for holding it all against me. In grade 10, my dad made a deal with me. If I got an average of 88%, he'd buy me a new laptop. Well, the marks came in, and I only got something like an 84 to 85% average. Well, frick that, I want my laptop. So I went online to the regional school board's website and downloaded a PDF template of the report card. I don't know why they would have this available. Used a PDF editor to fill in the blanks, and voila! Got a brand new laptop. No regrets. P.S. After I did this, I started selling customized fake report cards for $50 each. I was giving my cat a belly rub and it jizzed all over my hand. You must give really good belly rubs. I once took a week-long trip to London. My mother asked me to get her a small rock from there because neither of us have ever been out of the country. So I spend the whole trip looking for this rock and finally find the perfect one. Fantastic, she'll love it when I get back. So I get home, I'm taking inventory of all my souvenirs, and the rock is gone. I immediately think back to where I last saw it. It was on the bedside table in the hotel in London. Crap. So I quickly run outside and find a decent rock. I clean it off, we live in Georgia, freaking red clay is noticeable AF, and wrap it nicely. I eventually gave it to her with the story, I got it from a castle. It did break her heart to know that I got it from our backyard. My dad was a biker. He died in a motorcycle accident. He had this huge old garage/barn that he spent hours in. I was cleaning it out with my sister and we found a locked briefcase buried in a cupboard. We popped the lock and it was full of women's clothing. Stockings, lingerie, things like that. And definitely not my mom's size. I was peed. He'd been cheating on her. Then I got into his AOL accounts. My mom can't work a computer any better than she could work a spaceship, so I had to go in to shut his accounts down. There, I found all these screen names that he had made over the years. Every one of them had to do with stockings and panties. That's when I realized that the clothing in the briefcase wasn't a woman's, it was his. I found tons of gay porn on his computer as well. My sister and I swore never to tell, and we got rid of all the evidence. My mom is extremely conservative, and even though I don't agree with her point of view, I know it would kill her to find out. That briefcase is sitting in the dump now. I threw rocks at the school with one of my best mates, and some other students tattled on us. Basically, we both got the paddle. Basically, they smack your bum. And they sent a letter home to my dad. My dad received the letter, and I lied to him and said I never threw the rocks. My dad, bless his heart, believed me and took it to our school principal and convinced him that I wouldn't lie about such things. Since the principal wanted to rectify it for my dad's sake, he offered me a free voucher for an ice cream as an apology. It's 15 years down the track now, and I still feel really bad for it. I feel like if I told my dad now, it would break his heart. In my younger years, I had a neighbor that constantly left a mess in the yard, making it look like a junkyard, and they let the kids just run around, fricking up the entire neighborhood. I tried to sort it out civilly with them by asking them to stop doing things that peed off everyone, but the only response I got was that I was racist and they would target me and say I touched their kids if I ever talked to them again. They were grade A buttholes, so I decided to respond in kind and made an anonymous tip to the cops that they were selling drugs. I did this for maybe 4 months, asking my buddies to make similar tips every now and then. Well, one day I come home from school, the whole neighborhood is outside on the street, and the butthole's house had cop cars and a van outside. Turns out the tips worked, and the cops finally checked it out. But then I see the mother and father getting let out in cuffs. Turns out when the cops showed up, it was just 2 officers, but when they went to the door to talk to them, the father took off out the back door. Long story short, that made the cops chase him down, drag him back, search the house, and ended up finding a F-ton of pills, coke, and weed stashed all over the house. Since they had kids, the hammer came down on them hard for that, and in the end, they were both arrested for dealing and the kids were taken away. Not sure if it was the right thing, and I will never let anyone know, but at least after that, they weren't frickin' up the neighborhood anymore. All of my friends think they watched me lose my virginity on my front lawn one fateful summer night when I was 13. We were actually just pretending to have sex in order to frick with my friends. We were both too scared to actually do it. I've never corrected them. I was in kindergarten, probably 5 years old, and during sleeping time I asked a girl to show me her dong. I had at the time the freakiest buck-wild frick of my life with my best friend/roommate's sister. In the middle of it, we heard someone come in. Thought it was the other roommate. Nope, it was him. Proceeded to have a quieter frick, thinking he would leave eventually. Nope, marathon gaming session in the living room. Had to pull out my car behind the place in the alley, climb on my car, and help her down from the second-story window. When I went back home, he asked me if his sister had come by because she left her keys in the kitchen. I said I didn't know. He thinks the other roommate banged her because, well, he looks like a dude that fricks dudes' sisters. My dad's a National Socialist, and he regularly goes to meetings. I was raised on Germanic folklore and the idea that I'm superior to others because I'm of German descent. I have plenty of Jewish and Slavish friends, and I just tell them my dad died when I was younger. When I was 13, I was told that my great-grandparents were going to move to Texas and start their journey to heaven. I was crushed. I would spend every day with them up until they moved in May of 2009. Before they moved, I took a shoebox and decorated it with a picture of them and angel wings. I took my Gigi's favorite shirt, my Pop-Pop's favorite button-up, printed their favorite things, and stashed them away in the box. They would search for the shirt and assume they packed it away. 1 month later, my Pop-Pop passed away, then my Gigi passed a week after him. I was crushed. I never told anyone but my current boyfriend about the box, and most likely never will because I'm selfish. I've only opened it up 3 times in the past 6 years. I swear, the shirt still smells like them. My sister and I were on holiday together recently and very drunk one night when we got back from the bar. Naturally, we started drinking more because we were on holiday. She had the ice cube tray in her hand, opens the window simultaneously and loses her focus and drops the tray 5 floors to the street, hitting a big guy square in the dome. He looks up and starts screaming and shouting in Italian. I live in Rome, so I understand he was calling us some bad names. We just closed the window and continued drinking while we could hear this man shouting he was going to come up there and rip our heads off. Please never find me, Mr. Scary Italian Man. One night I woke up with my mind in a twist. My mom was in the hospital at the time. I had a crazy urge to call them and check on her, but I reasoned not to because I couldn't think of an excuse, so I fell back to sleep. 5 a.m. I get a call that they checked on her and she didn't have a pulse. I just think there was something I could have done that destroys me to even think about. I walked in on my then 15-year-old male cousin violating my grandparents' female dog. It was mortifying and I'll never forget what I saw. I was 8 or so at the time and didn't really know what to do. Time passed, and by the time I had figured out what to do, I don't think anyone would have taken my word over his. All the R34 I've drawn over the years. In 5th grade, I cheated on an exam. My buddy and I were the only 2 people in the grade who got this particular question correct, but I copied him. The worst part was he was considered dumb while I was at the top of the class, so the teacher was convinced that he copied me and he ended up getting suspended. Long story short, I was too puss to admit that I was the one who cheated, as my parents would have murdered me if I failed the test, and even worse, if I got suspended. I went to counseling for abuse after my parents divorced, and I was never abused, so they put me in the regular room with all the people who were waiting for their siblings. I claimed my father abused me so I could go to the special room with all the abused kids. It was horrible. I had no right being in that room with all those people. They were all really messed up from what their parents had done to them, and I just got in so I could play Yu-Gi-Oh! When we were kids, a female cousin and I played doctor around the age of 6 or 7. Talked about it a few years ago around the age of 25, became deeply intimate, and have had really incredible intercourse several times over the last few years. She recently got married, and we have since ended our relationship. We are both normal, successful, contributing citizens. You'd never know. Hopefully no one finds out, but I miss her and our level of intimacy. Uncle tragically passed away last year. Never married, no kids. Treated his 10 nieces and nephews like we could do no wrong. I also found out he was probably gay, and I don't think he was out to my family, or at least to most of us. No one would have had a problem with it, but it's hard to come out when my grandma just wants to set her youngest, would have turned 50 in May, baby up with all the ladies, you know? She's persistent, but means well. Is also a tad oblivious at times, but she's in her 80s. Anyway, after he passed, my dad and I were in charge of finding files to the book he was supposedly writing about our family. We wanted to finish the book and publish it in his name. My dad was having no luck finding files on his HD, so I took a stab at it. Dad isn't the best at computers. I found dating site photos he had taken, shirtless mirror pics, photos of guys I assume he was talking to, and in my opinion, he could have done better. You're the best uncle and only deserve the best. Also saw his history when I was looking through his browser bookmarks to get his emails and accounts. I forget if I deleted it yet. If I haven't, I will. I figured the search history was confirmation enough for me.